Well, good afternoon. Once again, the voice you hear is Brian, the Communications Director at Pearson College, and we're here today overlooking Petter Bay on a very beautiful late March day to introduce Rebecca Beecham. Rebecca is the incoming Director of Indigenous Initiatives and Engagement for Pearson College, and she's here today touring the campus together with her two children. So, Rebecca, welcome and thank you for making time for this before you've even officially started.
Thank you, Brian.
One of the ways that you introduced yourself earlier was to refer to what is called a pepeha, and that talks about family and it talks about community. And perhaps you could speak about that a little bit.
Yep. So my pepeha connects me to my whānau, my family, my ancestors, my whenua, the land, my culture, my language. Ko panikiri toku maunga, ko waikara tahiki toku awa, ko waikara moana toku moana, ko matatua toku waka, ko tuhoi te iwi, ko waimoko te marae, ko Rebecca Beecham toku ingawa. I am my mountain, my river, my lake, my canoe, my tribe, my house, and they are me. I also to acknowledge the present day, the traditional and present day unceded territory of the Shianu Nation, where Pearson College resides on, and also acknowledge the surrounding Coast Salish and Nuchalmouth First Nations of the Southern Vancouver Island. I was born in Aotearoa, New Zealand. My father is Maori. He's from his iwi's tribes are Tuhoi and Ngāti My mother is second generation Canadian. She's of English and Scottish heritage. I moved here into the Lekwungen territory when I was 7. I spent my life between Aotearoa and Vancouver and traveled to many places in between. So Aotearoa is the land of the long white cloud, home to the Tangata Whenua people, my people, Maori people. It's located in the South Pacific, very close to Australia. It's actually, the climate is a lot like here. We're sitting in this beautiful area, and you could be also sitting in New Zealand as well. Very green, we come from saltwater people, we come from water people as well. So
You've spent a lot of your time between the South Pacific and Vancouver Island as well. And tell us a little bit about that.
We decided to move here because my mother's family lives here. Our parents always wanted us to travel, wanted us to be a part of a greater world. They wanted us to have all the experiences in that life could offer, really. And to be honest, that is a lot of what I have been seeing the world, which has been pretty amazing. It's a privilege that I hold.
And you began your career as an early childhood educator in Aotearoa. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I believe education chose me. My experience in schooling systems wasn't exactly perfect and always positive, to be honest. But from my experiences throughout school and my career, I discovered how important it is to engage the learner on terms that resonate with them. My experience in early years in Aotearoa was at the Kohangareo, which is a language nest in Tuai, a small community that I'm from, where I was volunteering my time working with the early years, working with the young ones, but also paired with our kaumatua, with our old ones. So for me, that experience really opened up how we do meet children, how we do meet education from exactly where people are at. When we talk about, when we talk about language nests, when we talk about kohangareos, we talk about a learning that's about a collective whole, as opposed to a singular teacher that puts their values, their culture, and their ideologies onto children when it should really be a collective whole. And that really is the essence of early years in a language nest, but also all throughout education. It really should be like that, as a collective whole.
Now it had particular resonance to your career move back to Vancouver Island, and your work with the Victoria Native Friendship Center, specifically the Kakastelaka Early Years Center.
Yep, that was, yes.
You worked with them for a number of years, and then eventually you led that center, didn't you?
I did, yes. It was a very exciting time. I was hired as the cultural advisor within the VNFC, and it was myself and Joanne Kakwash that was mentored under Margot Edwards and we managed it. I got to incorporate, relationship-based learning. I got to incorporate curriculum that really supported our families that we wanted to, bring in and really embrace that learning of a collective whole, right? It was a really exciting time, and I would always hold it really close to my beginnings, to be honest, to be given the autonomy to really speak to the early years in a heart place, right? It's all about being relational. It's all about having that relationship base. And I just think it's crucial. It was pretty amazing, and I still, think it's pretty great.
You really speak about involving the entire community in that center, and is that sort of one of your overriding objectives when you come here to Pearson College? In other words, sort of, how do you make this resonate with Pearson students and adults on the campus as well?
Absolutely. Building relationships, building safety in those relationships is key to it will be key to my success working at Pearson. Holding, accountability where accountability needs to be had. And there's a changing world out there, right? The way I approach things is not in an aggressive way. I'm all about being respectful and acknowledging that this college already offers so much, right? It's not my way, nor my values of coming in and changing things drastically, but I am very aware of my role and what this means to the students that I'm accountable for, to Shaanu Nation I'm also accountable for, and really building those relationships.
What was it about it when you saw this opportunity? What was it about that excited you and maybe challenged you?
It's a time for change. I think we are living in a time where there's more conversations happening about, doing better, right? Making the change, doing better, having those conversations, and maybe that could be a challenge, right? Having those challenging conversations where people might not be ready to have them, but they need to happen for the detriment of the students that we're bringing on, right? It is our responsibility as a college to make sure that everybody is feeling welcomed and having the best learning experience that they could possibly learn, and really acknowledging that all the Indigenous students coming into Pearson College are coming with their own story, their own cultural identity, their own belonging. So how do we meet them in that, as opposed to them fitting into a curriculum that might not speak to who they are, right? We really need to start shifting that. We really need to start thinking about, the greatness that they'll bring, and really honing in on the thing that grounds them the most in this world.
And I would think that by extension, that would appeal to all of the international students on Pearson campus as well. I mean, they'll have so much to learn about Indigenous people from around the world who have for quite a long time been suppressed or ignored.
Absolutely, yeah. And we think about reciprocity, right? That goes a long way, but even thinking at a student level of sharing knowledge, right? That's a reciprocal relationship where you get a space to share who you are and where you come from, to then create more depth in your life. And those are definitely welcomed pieces that I'll be working really hard to bridge, right? Making sure that everybody is feeling welcomed, and making sure that our Indigenous students are really feeling like they have a space to then explore that as well, right? In New Zealand, we talk about when you're in academic spaces, or when you're even on our marae, you talk about, a whānau space, a family space. And that's really crucial for making everybody feel very comfortable.
Speaking of comfort, I have to say, I read the job description for the director, and it's very broad. There's a very, very big remit associated with that. So how are you going to, I guess, bring the entire Pearson community, the faculty, the staff, the administration, as well as the students, in to help them with that very big role?
I was sitting once with Elder Skip Dick from Songhees Nation, and Skip spoke to, you have to acknowledge, you have to speak your language, you have to acknowledge your culture, so then when it's time to go home, because we will go home, you will speak to the learning that you had. You'll speak to all the opportunities that you were given, right? And then take that back home, so then you can create a better community from it, right? In Maori, we have a thought process around weaving with flax. If we think about Pearson College as a kite, as a basket, Brian, you are a piece of flax, and so am I. So is Dawn. And we weave together, our students, we weave together our nations, we weave together our college together. It's one kite of a basket. If one leaves, the integrity of the basket is not the same. So when we talk about the role that I have within Pearson, I talk about it's a collective. It's everybody's responsibility to create change or to create a transformation, right? It's not solely up to one person. I can connect the dots and think outside the box and create opportunities, but I'm like, really, the depth will come from a collective. Yeah.
Exactly. And we have a special responsibility at Pearson because we are a boarding school. And we all know the troubled history of residential schools in Canada. And so I think that there's obviously a number of fundamental differences. Students are here voluntarily and they're here looking at it for the most part as an opportunity, but we have to be aware of that and always be conscious of that. So how do you weave that sort of narrative into what you'll be doing as well, and together with, as you pointed out, the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People? How do you weave those elements into what you're going to be doing?
I think it comes with time. It does. It comes with time and action all at once, right? Without pushing people to shut down either. There are big areas of communication that needs to happen, I think, in order to create the safety that the college needs to support Indigenous students, because Indigenous students are coming with all different layers, right? Whether they know their history, whether of their people, or whether they live in community and they're connected to their culture. Everybody may be at different spaces, right, of time. And we just have to really support that. How do we do it? Starting with having conversations with the families that the students are coming from. Really making sure that they know that their children are going to be safe here. And we're going to be opening up this dialogue, but really implementing elder and knowledge keeper participation. Like, none of those conversations will happen unless we have elders present, because they will be guiding the work. Right? Guiding the work with anything that's Indigenous being implemented within the college itself, because that's where my work is guided from, right? Nothing will happen without Shianu Nation knowing what's going on, right? So they can support it as well. So it's done in a good way, as opposed to a way that seems to be not authentic or not genuine, right? We never want to incorporate something without having the guidance of Indigenous voices, right? And that's where we rely also on the students. Empower them to be like, how do you feel? What do you feel? How does this make you feel? Right? Because it's all about a relational based. Everything's grounded in who you are and where you come from.
Nothing about us without us.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Your family has a bit of a connection with Pearson College from way back as host family volunteers, I understand. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. Did that sort of inspire you?
My family hosted the Maori students that were part of Pearson College, and also were a part of some of the other international students that came through Pearson a little bit ago. It was a while ago now. And we were also always present for the One World downtown to watch and to be inspired that way. Like, still to this day, any kind of movement, any kind of cultural practice that really spoke to who they were, like, you could just feel the passion dripping off the stage. It was pretty amazing. The diversity that you saw, really inspired me. It still does. But I'm a people person. I love to acknowledge people. I love to have conversations about people, right? And I think that's a really key quality for this position as well. You know, being a good listener, really observing what's being said, really listening to people's stories, listening to my stories, right? We go back to these core values. Anyway, yes, it was pretty amazing.
All right, thank you. Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything you would like to share with our audience?
And also I want to acknowledge my children, Tamate and Tiaki, who are around here. They're here. Here they are. For I do everything for them. So this is what's really directed me and to even apply for this job, is the fact that they then get to be a part of this great community as well.
A career choice that comes from the right place, from the heart then.
Yeah, it sure does.